I used to love slog for a story. I still am, but I have become more appreciative of a story that has interesting characters and plot. Like Mushoku Tensei, for example. And often at times, I find myself enjoying the Eishoto story more than any other gacha story and more than I should. So I ask myself, why is that? After playing through a grueling 52-hour sections of Amphorius, I reached to a conclusion. Eishoto story is actually really good and really bad. And this one is no different. 3.8 story is basically a retcon of Penacony that kind of revamped the endings and ties up all the loose ends. I always thought Penacony story is so fucking dumb because most things just don't make any sense. Like what the fuck is this disaster of a fool doing in Dreamland? And Firefly just make no fucking sense because she just appear and disappear randomly, which is really dumb and honestly a very bad storytelling. Until I played this story. And then I was like, ooh, so that is what happened. And the narrative structure of the storytelling of 3.8 is probably the best way to do a retcon in my opinion. Normally, you would expect a Shazar to give you a quiz of 1,000 conversations with the same 3 faces. Surprisingly, this time around, it lets you play through it, taking a break between each part of the story to let you process the information and even give you a very condensed and really good recap of Penacony's storyline each time you go back to the story from break, so that you don't feel disconnected and lost just because you, like me, don't remember the entire Penacony. Which is understandable, and if you remember the entire Penacony, you are a freak. I'm not being rude, I'm just being right. It doesn't exposition dump you by forcing you to talk to other people and running around the town asking, hey, do you know my past? Hey, do you know what happened? My mind is fucked and can't remember shit or something like that. Man, I would have quit HSR for another 5 months if that was the case, and probably become a Kuro bot or something. As much as I want to keep licking the booze, I have to stop here because of this motherfucker and I am very, very upset. The writing here is abysmal. This motherfucker came out of nowhere and started doing doggy style on my ears without my consent, with complicated and convoluted shit non-stop, for free. My brain, and especially my ears, did not sign off for this, and I can't skip because I feels like he is talking about some important shit, even though I understand nothing. But fret not, the ancient one, for thou art not alone. By thy side stands a comrade equally struck, not by pen's might, but by the cruel hand of woeful storytelling. And we'll get to that later. But now, let me talk about this freak because I love freaks. Dahlia carries this plot. Every time she is on screen, the tension increases and you stop smashing the spacebar. She's very unpredictable in a way that feels intentional. And she's not trying to be redeemed, she's just interesting. As a story character, that is gold. This is what you want from an antagonist adjacent presence. Someone who doesn't even have to say a word to make you uncomfortable. Someone who does not make you uncomfortable is our wife. Firefly is basically the heart of the story, or the focus of the story. Her desire to live kind of feels real now because her feeling to live has been in the spotlight for the entirety of Penacony and in this retcon story as well. So normally, you're hoping she lives, right? And I'm hoping she dies. Before thou conjure the words, ye simply loathe Firefly, allow thine ears to be enlightened. For me to be invested in a character to a point that I care about them, that character has to be conceptually interesting or has great character development. I'm not saying Firefly is not a good character, it's just that my standards are just that high, so it is more of my problem than your problem. Robin, however, is everyone's problem. In one particular scene, she doesn't question enough and moves the plot forward by not thinking. She got Rock's brain for a bird in that one, and that's a compliment. Remember when Robin was tailing us because she thought Firefly is super sauce? When she met Firefly in Green Flags Reef, she's like, yeah, your face looks sincere enough, so I'm gonna gamble my life on that. Not to mention, there's a cremator standing beside Firefly and she knows that. The chaos continues when Dahlia the cremator asks her for her memories. And she was like,
oh, sure. I will even put my pussy as a bonus there. How about it?
And then Black Swan came in saying Dahlia is lying for fun, and that she got 2 words of message from Sunday as proof stating that she is trustworthy. Robin then asked what are the words. Black Swan answered with Charmony does. And Robin was, oh my god, Charmony does. No more memory and pussy for you, Dahlia. And then she ran away from Black Swan whole heart too. There are only 2 possible explanations for this behavior. Either the storytelling of this part is a dumpster fire or Robin IQ went negative in that one scene. Honestly, I wouldn't rule out either. Anyway, I just wanted to show you how absurd this is. It doesn't make her unlikable or a bad character by any means though, because it was just that one scene where she got cheated by storytelling. She performs as good as the other main cast in any other part of the story and was a really interesting character throughout the entire story. The rest of the cast are normal Sunday adventuring. Special shout out to my favorite character Sparkle. Black Swan, they're not bad. They do their own job to move the plot, create momentum. Most of the time, they don't get enough focus here because they're the main focus of the main story. And this is a retcon story. They're functional, interesting characters, not memorable ones in this arc. And this is probably all the critiques that I can possibly find and show it to you. So we're gonna reactivate shield mode for some aspects. Viewer discretion is advised. One of the strongest aspects of this story and probably the entire storytelling of HSR is core theme. Usually people don't care about that or didn't notice it because they only focus on surface level elements. But that shit is literally the glue that puts a story together. Without core theme, the story falls apart to little parts, and the entire story now feels very disconnected. The best example is going to be Weathering Wave 2.8 stories. First, the theme was about suppression, the charge, and then we suddenly went to Septima, and the entire core theme got abandoned, making the 2 stories very, very disconnected. See? And you probably noticed by now that Septima's stories are also very, very self-contained as well. Do you know why? Because it doesn't carry a clear theme across it, which is why it is fragmented. Just to be clear here though, story events and core themes are not interchangeable, no matter how much you wish they were. Let's not confuse plot with philosophy here, shall we? So, does it matter? Oh, it matters a lot. Without it, the overarching story got diluted. What matters becomes the current plot because it is exploring a different theme, not the main plot anymore. And the main plot now only matters at the end of the entire story. It's kinda hard to wrap your head around this, so I don't blame you if you misunderstand it. Anyway, back to HSR. Can you figure out 3.8 theme? If you do, well, consider yourself respected. The core theme is clear. What does devotion do to a person when it is taken too far? Every major character represents a different answer. Dahlia's devotion to experience, Firefly devotions to survival, Robin's devotions to music, Sunday devotions to order. The story knows what it wants to say. That alone puts about a lot of games' narrative. The story is glued together, not broken into million bits. Well, if you only care about what is obvious, then this probably doesn't matter. But the story depth is definitely a whole other world for you. Speaking of broken into a million bits, Firefly turning into death at the end and dying while standing and waiting for the fireworks to start was relatively beautifully done. Though as a character, we didn't get to experience her tragic past, but she's been in the story long enough to compensate for that. That being said, things started getting weird after that, and I have a few problems with it. The first problem is that when the finality gazed at us and that we were able to go back in time and grant Firefly her wish and save her somehow. This is literally plot armor. Well, at least that's how I see it. Oh, by the way, all of this happened in less than 3 seconds. I'm not complaining, but would have loved a better pacing, to be honest. This one just too fast. One more thing here, but this one is purely a me problem. Firefly should have died, so I'm gonna pretend that this ending doesn't exist and that she is gone forever. This is a story that hits differently depending on the player. Half the player base is crying over Firefly and the other half is asking for the DLC on what the fuck just happened. And while that split reaction is not a bad thing, they fully committed to an emotions and love declared on read. which personally I don't really like. When it lands, it really lands. When it doesn't, it feels exhausting. It is not a masterpiece, but it's not a failure either. A solid 8 out of 10, 8.2 on a good day. Big ambition, a bit questionable execution here and there, but the mistake this story makes are tiny. I can count it on my hands, like one scene of Robin having negative IQ, Dream Master yapping for more or less 30 minutes in a 5.5 hour long story, and the pacing at the end was a bit, a bit fucked. Must have been a win, to be honest. Either way, you'll remember this story for what it is. If nothing else, Penacony 3.8 proves one thing. When Honkai Star Rail wants to tell a serious story, it can and it will. It just needs to learn when to stop talking.